That sumbitch is tough as woodpecker lips.
The Southern Saturday Podcast.
Oh, well, come on, son. You couldn't whoop a pitcher of meat.
It's like giving your ears a big glass of sweet tea.
Come on, boy. Shit.
Drink up and enjoy.
What's going on, guys? Another episode of the Southern Saturday Podcast. Got a special guest today, Mr. A.J. McCarron.
Appreciate you having me.
Nah, man, I'm excited. Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. All right, let's just go ahead and start where you were the story you were already telling.
Yeah. So me and you, we were talking about to give the audience a little
Our childhoods.
Yeah, we were talking about our childhoods, growing up poor. We were talking about my dad's new truck. It was like a Dodge 1500 or something. It was a really nice truck. And we were eating somewhere one day, and it came in and got repoed. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, Dad, somebody's still in the truck. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. Just let it go.
No big deal.
And then we, from there, went to, my uncle had a F100. It was literally like, you could tell it used to be silver, had the red or crimson pinstripe down the side.
Yeah.
And it was rusted out completely. The outside, the inside, well, you had holes in the floorboard, one. But we used to have to wear a poncho to school. so the Our Lady of Lourdes, you had to wear a white polo, and it had those old red cloth seats.
Yeah.
Well, we sat on it the first day, not knowing, going to school one day, and we got out, and my brothers, the back of our polos were red.
Solid red.
And so then it went from there to, we had to wear goggles because it had the whole rubberized.
So y'all look like y'all were doing science experiments.
Yes, going to school. And so we would wear these little goggles because the rubber dashboard was flaking off and would blow into our eyes.
I bet when you got out, people are like, these kids are committed. They're gonna learn some shit today.
They probably thought we were smart, just not understanding we weren't that smart.
Dude, my grandpa, we went and picked up, to start off the repo story. My dad's sitting there. We lived like 3 acres away from my grandparents. Like, it was in the same 3 acres of land. And he's sitting there with my grandpa and a buddy of his, and all of a sudden somebody comes and gets in his buddy's car and just leaves with it. And so my grandpa and my dad are like, Steve, somebody took your truck. And he's like, no way. And dude, they get in it, and they're like, you late? Are you behind on the payments or anything? They're like, no. So they start driving, chasing this guy. Chase him all over town, and they're like, well, I wonder where this son of a bitch is going. Well, he pulls into the police station, and he gets out and just runs inside, full sprint. Well, the police come out, and it is a repo guy. He's there to get the car, and like, he didn't want to be embarrassed about it, so he's like, no, I swear I paid it. So this repo guy thought he was going to die.
Right. He was driving to safety.
Dude, my grandpa had a 88 Toyota. That's back before they had any name for it. It was just a Toyota pickup.
Right.
It looked like you turned like a bobcat loose in it and like threw a grenade in there. It looked like asbestos were coming out. Like everything was destroyed on it. And he ended up selling that truck like 2 or 3 years ago for like $7,000. And I was like, who paid that? He's like, they like him Toyota truck. I was like, it looked like a bomb went off in it though. That's crazy.
It's probably better than what Toyota's dealing with the new Tundras and all that right now, having a recall.
I do. It's just, I think it's more shit to break.
Oh, yeah.
Like everything on it, everything's electrical. Mm-hmm. Every little thing is new, something new to break. Like back then, they just put air conditioner and a motor in it.
Right.
Rolled your windows down.
The thing that scares me more than anything is just hearing stories like the fact that, those new Tundras, or you could be going down the interstate 80 plus miles an hour, and all of a sudden you lose complete power.
Yeah.
Like everything's off a computer chip.
Which is your power steering and everything.
Right.
It's just gone.
And it's just gone. And then, that's the thing that scares me is from a EMP attack or whatever, somebody hacking to and control cars like Teslas or anything, self-driving cars, like it scares the shit out of me.
Did you see that movie? It was with Julia Roberts and them, where they took over all the Teslas and just started running them into each other.
Yeah, and which was
I can't
not to get
remember the name of it.
Super political, but It was backed and directed / produced by the Obamas, which also made the Civil War movie.
So of course they picked Tesla.
Yeah. So it damn, well, I forget the name of it.
It's a catchy name, but I never remember it. I've tried to tell people about this movie like 20 times, and I forget the name.
End of Times or something
It's
like
something
that.
like that.
Something.
Oh, dude.
People
are screaming at the screen right now.
But they also, the second part of that was have you seen the Civil War one they came out with?
No.
That's another good one.
Also backed by Obama?
Yes. So they were like co-producers or something, directors on it. But yeah, it's like a 2-part deal that kind of go together.
Wow.
And
well, I was wondering, like, when the first one went off, I was like, okay, so it's just going to stop with the girl watching Friends in the bunker, like,
right?
I didn't know they made a
it's like a
continuation.
It's called Civil War, and it's about the country coming to an unrest, and basically it's the right versus left in a civil war. I was like, it's funny how the times all match up. But yeah, it's crazy,
dude.
movie.
And then after that, like the whole Delta got shut down thing the other day, and so AT&T was out for like 2 days or something. You're just sitting there like, okay,
it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, before somebody figures it out and that's like just wants to destroy everything, and then you're screwed.
Right. Yeah, it's scary times for sure,
dude. Speaking of scary times, what was it like to be under like prime Nick Saban? Like not like the Nick Saban that looked like he could whoop my ass, like that Nick Saban.
It's such a different deal. Like, you know, watching him throughout his career, like after I left, it was completely different. And he had to, because he was catching a lot of flack from recruits and parents of recruits to like, hey, you're not a really personable guy. Like, we need to see more emotion out of you, like from an affectionate standpoint, caring.
Really?
Yeah. And it was kind of crazy, like how much flack he was getting from parents. But
that's wild.
So one thing people will definitely remember, it was my freshman year, we beat Texas in the national championship. They dumped the Gatorade on him, and he was absolutely pissed.
Yeah.
And then if you remember, we go to the celebration at the stadium, and they dump a Gatorade on him again, or bucket, but it was filled with confetti, and he did his little little dance deal. But he had to do that to make a joke out of it.
I was about to say, somebody probably was like, Nick.
Yeah. Jeff Puritan.
You got to show you got a little bit of a funny side somewhere.
100%. And so it was just such a weird deal to see him go from, listen, when we were there as freshmen, I showed up, my first day was
your freshman year the time that highlight, it's one of my favorite highlights where like you're in late in the game and he literally still is mad at you for...
No, so that was my redshirt freshman year.
Okay. So I knew it was early on before you were starting.
Yeah. So this was my freshman year, but we showed up to run. We had 16 110s we were scheduled to run that day, and we ended up running 36 of them. And like they just added, if he didn't like it, you had to make it in a certain amount of time, each skill position. And but if you bent over, touched your knees, they added one, and it was for the whole group. And we ended up running 36 of them. I remember we had a cornerback, Chris Rogers, that came through on the last one, and we always had two ambulances sitting there waiting and on the practice field.
Oh my God, that's insane!
And he came through the line and completely just was out, and they put him on the stretcher, and it was like nothing was going on. Like it was like a normal deal. It was like, all right, we're into the weight room, let's go. And it was like, what? He's laid out right here.
Yeah,
like
he'll be back. He'll be back.
So they took him to the hospital. He was back the next day. But how strict he was on everything, like he had to kind of change with times.
I disagree, though. I mean, I know he did, and I know everybody does or whatever, but any time that you look back in history and talk about somebody that's a GOAT of something, whether it be Michael Jordan or whatever, You always when they start talking about him, they're like, no, yeah, they were like an unforgiving, and you're like, yeah, that's why he was the best. That's
100%. I totally agree with you. I think that's why. I don't know if the standard changed a little bit,
Probably.
because of it, but he wasn't able to be himself as much as I think he wanted to be.
And he's also, no matter what, he's getting older.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So,
But dude, I'm telling you, that Nick Saban that y'all had, I would be at home and be like, I'm scared of that guy. That dude.
so
Those whisper screams he could
it's
get
a
going.
funny. So I came in as a freshman, had a really good summer, 7-on-7s and workouts and everything. Was really throwing the ball extremely well, learning the offense quick. We come around to leading into that season where we have the first 3 scrimmages, and we go out for the first scrimmage. And now I'd been repping with nothing at that time. You had Star Jackson, who was like the #1 dual threat QB out of Tampa, Florida, and he was there a year or 2 before me, and so he was considered the backup. Well, I ended up leading up to those scrimmages, I was taking almost 100% of the 2 reps, and then every once in a while he'd throw me in there just to see how I would react being with the ones.
Yeah.
But when we come to the scrimmage, I'm thinking, all right, I'm gonna be with the 2s the whole time, and Star's taking the 3s. Well, he ends up, the 2s go out, and Saban's like, Star, you got him. So I ended up sitting there, and then he's like, 3s go out, and he lets Star or somebody else. We had a walk-on quarterback, Ogletree, I think, his dad. Played there years ago, but he ended up taking. I'm like, he's a walk-on. Like, what the hell are we doing? And then the 4s go out, and it's nothing but walk-on linemen, and we're going against the 1 defense, which had Terrence Cody, Rolando McClain, Javier Arenas, like all Dante Hightower, all these guys. And I'm under center. I think it might have been the first snap, second snap. I'm under center. As soon as I say hut, the center gets launched by Terrence Cody straight into me, knocks me down. The whole entire day for the scrimmage, the first scrimmage, was a absolute nightmare. We didn't do jack shit, and I was so pissed off. We got back on the bus, went to the facility. You usually had to, all the players went through the side entrance and towards the locker room. I went through the main doors. I didn't take cleats off or anything. Went straight up to his office and knocked on his door, and I said, hey, I need to talk to you. He's like, all right, sit down. Let's talk. So he hits the button, closes his door, and he lets me go on, ramble on why I'm pissed off and everything. And then he said, you done? I said, yeah. And he said, well, today we were testing your leadership skills, and you failed miserably. And so after that, I knew, all right, everything he does is just a mental challenge.
Sure.
Like he just wants to play games with you.
Yeah.
Right. And it helped me grow, because he ended up, after that, he could see a change in me, and he basically said, listen, if you can deal with the mental games that I throw at you, playing in front of 102,000 people in Death Valley is going to be nothing.
Well, he probably, even though it was misplaced, was probably like, AJ, come up there and talk to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he knew.
Yeah, he had enough nuts to come do that.
Yeah, he knew, because, hell, leading up to that point, and even when I was a recruit, I would stay on Sundays. And Sundays, I would go up to his office and watch film of the game. And before I was even there. And so that was kind of our tradition.
Yeah.
My whole time, like being recruited, and then my whole time I was there on Sundays, it was me and him time. We'd go up, we'd watch the film breakdown, and we'd watch both sides. And he'd give me pointers on, from a defensive standpoint, what he was thinking. And then we would go into what our next opponent was. But so he knew, like, listen, if there was somebody that really didn't give a shit and would challenge him, which he liked that. He respected the hell out of that. It would definitely be me. So
yeah, but dude, those years when y'all were there, those are my favorite years. I've been an Alabama fan my whole life. Even when I told some of my family, I was like, "Hey, AJ's coming on tomorrow," they're like, "Can I come over?" I was like, "No, you can't. I don't know." I just remember watching y'all and being like, if we got in a tough spot or something, like, I was never worried.
Right.
Like the way that I'm not shitting on Alabama now; they're still good, but like, always had confidence in y'all. Like, I'm not really worried about AJ throwing a pick. Like, not saying you never did,
Yeah.
but I would just be like, I'm confident. If he throws it, I'm confident somebody's there to catch it.
Right, 100%. And to lead into what you were, talking about earlier when he so-called spanked me, we were playing Mississippi State. We're beating Mississippi State pretty well, and I can't remember if it was Dan Mullen or who was the head coach of State at that time, but he respected that coach, and we had a pretty big lead.
Sure.
And so he throws me in, but he throws me in with the ones, and we had called a play. I think it was Dino, and I had Julio, which earlier in the year he put me in versus Kent State with Julio, and I threw my first 2 passes. First one was like a 12-yard completion, and then I threw a post that Julio's, they play that clip all the time still of him diving, catching across the goal line. And so my thing was, listen, you put me in the game with Julio, and Julio loved me being in there the same time he was. Like, he would almost ask.
Did you know him prior?
Yeah, just from, we would play Foley and like Jamboree and
we did too.
Games. And so I knew Julio and Robert Lester pretty well because we were all getting recruited at the same time. But we call this post. I see the safety just bite up on the play action fake, and the safety turns around to run. Well, he falls. The corner is below on the backside of Julio. I throw it. It's the one pass that Julio would never drop. Well, he does. I launch it. He drops it in the end zone, and I look to the sideline, and Saban is pissed because at the same time, Brad Smelly, who was our tight end, had come over on a deep over route and was wide ass open. But at the same time, listen, I see Julio one-on-one, I'm throwing it to him.
No doubt.
And so he was just pissed. We end up driving down. I think we get stopped, kick a field goal. And I come to the sidelines because, of course, I'm the holder for all 4 years, which pissed me off too. But
did it? I always liked that. I don't know why. I was just it's always if they want to do a fake or something, the AJ's in there.
And it worked out versus Arkansas my first year starting. But and to lead into that, but so he ends up getting pissed off at me, and I basically said, he brought me into the office the next day, and he had to come out with an apology for spanking me because he started getting a bunch. I
was about to say the media gave him a lot of shit, but I remember everybody that was a fan was like, that fucking Saban. I love him.
Right, exactly.
The only people that were mad about it were the media.
And we didn't care. And he asked me, he was like, do you care? I was like, no. I said, listen, one, you're hard on me, but I'm harder on myself. But my mom and dad had no problem backhanding the shit out of me when I was growing up. So it's like, I understand you being pissed. I said,
it's not like he slapped you.
Right. I said, listen, are you pissed? Yes, I understand. I said, but at the same time, I said, listen, if you don't want me to throw that pass, don't put me in the game with Julio.
Exactly. In a 101 situation.
Yeah, which he understood at the same time too. But it's that was a crazy time. And then you had mentioned something else. What that you just mentioned about
I don't know. I asked if you knew Julio before.
Yeah. No, it was just right after that. We were talking about a game. And it led into something. It'll come back to me.
Yeah, it don't matter. We'll cut out all the time thinking about it. I don't know what it was. I don't know, dude. It's just cool, that you're from here, where we're from. We were always fans. That was always.
I appreciate it. Oh. It hit me.
There you go.
So the one field goal, I don't know if people realize this.
Oh, you holding. That's what it was.
The one field goal that I didn't hold for is the kick six in my career. The only field goal I never held for.
Wait a minute.
4-year starter at holding, and that's the only field goal I never held for in my whole career.
Wow.
That we kicked, and I was not the holder.
I don't think anybody knows that. I've never heard anybody say it.
Yeah. So
I know I didn't know it.
It was which that also pissed me off.
Dude,
for that game
was
too,
one of the
because
oh my god.
I told Gus, I ended up being Gus Malzahn, and liked him a ton, and he would always, whenever we saw each other somewhere, whether I'm with my parents or myself, he would come over, talk, and we'd sit down. He was a great dude, and but I always told him, I said, listen, I think we were at the award ceremony my senior year for the Maxwell and all that, and he was there, and Trey Mason was up for the Heisman as well. And I said, listen, I might not have made that tackle on Chris Davis. I said, but your ass standing on the sidelines in that vest, you would have been depleted, because I'm jumping up and spearing somebody. Like, somebody's getting hit. Yeah. I'm not just going to run by. Like, I would have been so pissed off. But, yeah, that's the only
Dude, we were at my grandma's house watching this. Everybody's there, and then my mom is the only Auburn fan at the house. Like, a loaded house full of Alabama fans and one Auburn fan who has been quiet for a lot of the game.
Right.
And then when that happened, everybody's sitting on there, and it's just like the worst feeling, like your jaw's on the floor, and it's just a somber feeling. And my mom, you could hear her. If she was at her house and started screaming, you could hear her from right here. That's how loud she is. And, dude, she's just screaming and jumping, and everybody's just like, oh, my God. It was the worst.
It was
the worst game I've ever watched.
Yeah, Saban, he always said he never regretted anything in his career, but he's on record multiple times saying that's the one regret that he did was kicking that field goal instead of just going into overtime.
And so begging for the 1 second back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember when it was happening, I was like, this is not a bad idea. It's a win-win. You know, if he makes it, it's good. If he loses, we get. I never thought in my head, like, he's going to kick it short. They're going to run it all the way back. And then he still went out of bounds.
Listen, I swear that I thought Chris stepped out of bounds.
He did, but once the field's rushed, what are you going to do?
Yeah. But on their sideline, there's multiple pictures that look like Chris,
he's out.
that he stepped out. So
it doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
But, God, that was a terrible game to watch.
It was.
Oh, man, it was brutal.
It sucked, for sure.
Well, how big of a, like, okay, so you've met The Rock in person, correct?
Yeah.
When you see him compared to NFL players, like small, bigger, he looks like a tree.
No, I mean, he's a big dude.
Yeah, but like compared to like a lineman in the NFL.
You know, height-wise, he's not as tall as a lot of guys. Now, he's every bit of 6'3".
Yeah.
But from a juiced up standpoint,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's definitely juiced.
Because dude, to his core, like of course he is.
But no, I mean he's a big dude for sure, and he's been great. I wish he had more to do with this new side of things. I think there was such a big difference from the XFL to the UFL this past year. Even though he's considered an owner, I think he's more of the
face or something. Yeah. Because that guy's got to have a lot on his plate. Like, a ton. It seems like he makes a movie every hour.
Yeah. And I know he's got, I think it's 7 productions.
$7 or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is. And then 54 or something. So, I mean, he has a ton of stuff. He's always busy. Hell, we only saw him once or twice all XFL season. He was hardly ever there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. But then again, you think it seems like that would be a passion project for him too, like where he'd be pretty.
You would think.
Yeah, especially because like all I've ever heard him say is like how he wanted to play football. He wished he could have played football. So I just figured he would be there all the time.
Yeah. I mean, my only guess is just the fact that you alluded to is he's so busy.
I can only imagine.
That he couldn't be. But at the same time, like, I think they thought that this deal was going to be able to produce some back-end funds from the NFL or want the NFL to be a part of it a little more. And I think that's their ultimate goal from people that I talk to that are high up in the league. Their idea was to have a plan for 4 to 5 years, and then after that, be able to sell each team off, or have a team or two be picked up by the NFL to show like, hey, they have support here in this city, and then him and Miss Danny would basically have some type of ownership of those teams. But I think their ultimate goal is to kind of sell the teams off to where, even though it's the UFL now, that they would have individual owners.
Dude, that would be cool, to be honest. Like I tell you, where we live in Mobile. I've just always been disappointed with the fact that we just don't support anything we ever have. Nothing. Like the Mystics when I was a kid, no. Got the Bay Bears, no. It's just like, God, give me a break.
That's the thing that disappoints me from a Mobile standpoint of you usually get about 2 years of supporting, way back in the day, the Mobile Bay Sharks.
Right.
And they used to play at South. It's about a 2-year run. And then after that 2 years is up, it's kind of whether people just lose interest in it or being from the city we're from to where, you have a shooting or something happen. And once that happens, it's like people with money is like, I don't want anything to do with it.
I don't know, man. The Bay Bears weren't it's not like they were winning the pennant every year in their division, but I always liked going.
Yeah.
You could go for $8 and when they were they're leaving, I was like, God, we just don't support nothing. When you went to the games, it would be not that many people there, and about halfway through the game, they're all gone. Mm-hmm. They would never stay for the whole game. I didn't even go to the Mystic stuff as a kid. I don't know. Because I was from Mobile, I suppose, and my parents wasn't supporting that either.
I actually went. So my cousin was the equipment manager for the Mystics.
Wow,
growing up, so we used to go all the time.
That was a hockey team in Alabama. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. We had a hockey team down here.
Yep, but it's things like that where the Bay Bears ended up leaving and going to Huntsville to become the Trash Pandas.
Yep.
And that's because their city was throwing $47 million into a new stadium, which that's my gripe. I've had multiple talks with our mayor, Mayor Stimson, being able to the city to get behind and put money into youth sports is a big thing that I'm into now. And
Saraland's building that huge complex.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
And so we've had ideas of, for a while, I tried to have an agreement with Hank Aaron Stadium and get something going there, which sits on about 37 acres as a whole. And but trying to get the city to be more involved because from a travel ball, sports complex or training deal, the city's missing out because every other city is doing something.
Yeah.
Saraland's doing one. Daphne did one that cost, the city got behind it. It cost the city $22 to $25 million to build their baseball complex, and they paid it off in 2 years. And now they're just cash positive. And it's we got to learn. And the mayor didn't know this, but per capita, the Mobile has the most amount of guys in the NFL out of any city in the United States.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was a couple years ago when I pitched the idea. But I don't know if that still stands, but
it's cool though.
Yeah, it's cool. And my thing is, the mayor ran off of last time is bringing our people of Mobile back to our city. And it's like, all right, well, I understand that, but to bring them back, you got to
have something to redeem them. You got to have a redeeming quality.
Right. And there's a bunch of all these guys that are in the NFL or NBA and MLB. We don't have anybody other than myself that trains in Mobile in the off season. You got to build something to where it's not only just us, but it's also, viewed towards the youth side of things.
Yeah,
to where,
and we do have schools down here that are like a draw. For football, you got your Saralands and your UMSs and everything else.
Right.
And then, so you already have that. It's having something like that on top of it, you know what I mean?
100%. 100%.
Because now, when people come down here now, if they come back to Mobile, they're like, yeah, but I don't really live in Mobile. I live across the bay. Or, you know what I
mean? 100%. Yeah, good thing is we had to deal with the Top Golf. So hopefully for us, that does well. Then you got
so
Dave
far,
and Buster's.
It seems to be doing fine.
Yeah, it's packed. Hell,
I've went 3 or 4 times and it's been nice.
Yeah, we had a thing to deal with that from our real estate side of things that I started. So then we had tried to get Dave & Buster's, which was going to, come in with us from a sports complex deal.
Yeah.
But now they're building on the other side by that Dodge dealership right there. They're building a Dave & Buster's right there.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Never been to one.
Yeah. So I think it's the one they're building is going to be like 60,000 square feet, which would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
are they normally that big?
Yeah. So their normal deal, when we met with the Dave & Buster people, they said they like to build anywhere from 60 to 65,000 square foot.
Holy shit.
Building. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I've never been to one, so I didn't know they were that big. That's wild.
Yeah.
I know their gimmick. Like I know what they're about.
Right.
But I've never been to one.
So I mean, Mobile's set up for things to where if we do a sports complex here and get the city behind it and the right people involved, like
Put it in the right spot too.
Right. In the right spot is always big. So you want a place that's near 10 and 65.
Exactly.
But you could draw from all over.
Yep.
And then you have Top Golf and Dave & Buster's and all that right there, along with hotels. Like it's a big time moneymaker.
Drew Brees has got that place in
Surge.
Mobile too. Yeah.
Yep.
I've been to it like twice.
Yep.
My son, of course, loves it. He's 5, so it's an arcade type deal.
Yep. Our kids
But dude,
love
it's
it
got
too.
inside go karts and all kind of shit. I was like, well, that's wild.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, they've added on bowling alley in there.
Yeah. Golf simulator.
Yeah, all kind of stuff.
Wild.
It is. So how did your tell me, like how did you start? What did you do to where then you just all of a sudden came into the IG side of things, like blew up on social media?
Yeah. So like, it's so cool that like I was a fan of you, and now you're like, dude, I'm a fan of you. That's so wild. It's weird how life changes so fast. Like I've always been funny. Like that's just one of the things. Like joking with your friends coming up, like
Right.
And I always wanted to do stand up. I've been writing stand up on my phone for years. Just never had the balls to go do it anywhere. Didn't even know Mobile had anywhere you could do it.
Right.
Because like you said, Mobile supports nothing.
Right.
So I did some videos. Like I used to be in, I know you can't tell now, but I used to be in pretty good shape. And I did some videos on YouTube that were like fitness type videos, but they were more comedy. Like I had a lot of comedy involved in them. Well, they didn't do shit. They were terrible. Awful. Like nobody go watch them. They were terrible. They were absolutely terrible. But like it made me comfortable around the camera. Mm-hmm. Like I remember when I first started doing them, I'd be in here by myself. That the room next door is a gym, and I would be in there I'd set the camera up and do stuff like. And I remember going in there and telling my wife, like, hey, can you just like leave for a little while? I don't even want you to hear me talking to the camera in there. And I'd set it up, and that when you're first starting out doing it, talking to the camera or anything, you don't even know how to start it. So I'm sitting there like, hey guys, what's going on? And I'm like, God, that sucks. Like, and so I'd do like 20 takes of it. I'd get done with the video and put it up, and then I'd watch it later and be like, this is horrible. But it got me used to being on the camera.
Right.
And then I put up a video one time on TikTok, which I never used TikTok at all. Had it on my phone, never used it. And I put up a video of my wife because when she talks, she sounds like everything's like been deep fried. Like hoggins is what I made fun of her saying. She was saying that somebody was hogging something, but she said hogging. So I started videoing her, and I was like, oh, they was hogging it? And like I made a few jokes making fun of her, and the video got like 10,000 views or something, which if you've got nothing, you're like, well, that's crazy. Yeah. That's wild. And I was like, oh, she's not funny. I'm way funnier than her. So I've always made fun of my grandpa. Like we said, growing up poor, like, those old Southern guys are. They got a saying for everything. Right. And like, they're not even trying to be funny.
Right.
They just are. So I did a video as him, and it didn't really do much. Like a few of my Facebook friends was like, oh, this is so funny, and blah, 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 blah. So then I put up a second one like 2 or 3 days later because a few people was like, do more of these. And it went like kind of viral, like 250,000 views. Damn. And I was like, oh, wow, this is like, I might have awesome. Something here. Yeah. So the third one I put up was like 5 million views like overnight. And I'm freaking out. I was like, where's my check? Like, I know I'm going to be a millionaire. You don't know how anything works.
Right.
You're just like, I'm going to be rich. I'm calling tomorrow, quitting my job. Like, I just watch your phone. Like at that point, you still have all your notifications turned on, so your phone's literally just going nuts. Off. And I remember sitting there showing my wife like over and over and over. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is crazy. We got 5 million views. There's people reaching out to me from like Snapchat and stuff and being like, hey, I'm sure they do this. They'll reach out to you and be like, "Hey, can we use your video on our page?" and just credit you.
Right.
And which is the correct way to do things, by the way, guys. Don't just steal people's videos. But I was like, of course, I'm freaking out. I'm like, yeah. Everybody use it, share it everywhere. And that probably helped a lot. Like a few of these big pages put the video on there, gave me credit for it. Mm-hmm. I got all these followers. And back then I'm getting like, of course, as soon as that happens, I'm like, I'm going to do one like every 2 days. I'm going to do one every 2 days. And that was back when I was doing them on my phone. Like they were trash. Audio was horrible. So then we start buying cameras and microphones and like all this stuff, making every video better and better and better. And I think we did like 30 parts of Southern Sayings. I started writing them, like started coming up with them in my head. And like I was getting like 100,000 followers like every few days. Like I got to 1 million in like 3 or 4 months. Yeah. Like it was insane. And like now I don't like I do the grandpa stuff still, of course, right. But like I do all these other skits too. Like any kind of comedy thing that I can think of, I'm gonna do a skit about it. And dude, it's just fun. Like now it's got to the point, dude. I'm so lucky and blessed and whatever. Like now it's my full-time job. Like I make way more than I did at the steel mill, just doing stupid ass videos at home.
That's awesome.
And like now YouTube is starting to take off, which is like the life-changing money.
Right.
Like, I really hope that it does well. This is where I'm putting this on YouTube, and like I still put longer comedy videos on there and stuff like that. And I just crossed 50,000, which is like 100,000. You get your first like play button they send you or whatever. Yeah. That's my goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's so cool.
So who came up with the sex book skit?
Oh, that's me.
Oh, okay.
I actually have a whole stand up bit about it.
Okay,
that's pretty much like that. Now that's not actually what happened.
Because I just watching that video the other day, I just died laughing. It's like she's like, I'm gonna go clean, and she's in there.
Now that's true. She does that with audiobooks, but she doesn't like listening to erotic audiobooks.
Right.
But I walked in one day. This is what made me think of the idea. I got up out of bed and like I told her I was going to sleep, and I didn't end up falling asleep. So I'm like, I'm going to go get something to drink. So I come walking back in the living room, and all I hear when I walk in is just, and it's like, it's some show she's watching on Netflix. And dude, she's so embarrassed. She's like, I swear I've been watching this show for 2 hours. Nothing like this has been on there. And then you walk in, and this is on. So that's what made me think of like the audio book joke. Right. And like when I made that video, I didn't expect it to do that well. I knew it was funny, but like I didn't know it was gonna, 20 million. Like that's crazy.
That thing was so great. Because I don't ever see, because I'm not on TikTok. Just TikTok scares the shit out of me.
I can't stand TikTok. Like even though that's my biggest following or whatever, it's the most inconsistent. Like it rewards stupidity. It just drives me crazy.
And you always hear just people I follow and everything, like from an algorithm standpoint, like if it's things that is political in a certain way, do they, push it down to where it's not?
I don't know because I haven't done any political jokes yet, but I know that like the thing about TikTok is like everybody else pays you through ads or whatever, except for TikTok. They just pay you out of their fund or whatever. So a consistency that I find with every creator that I talk to is like TikTok, and they only pay for videos over a minute. So if you make a video over a minute, they're going to throttle those views. Like they just will. The video will succeed elsewhere, but TikTok's algorithm is just a joke. So
they don't have to pay.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is like, just what I say is just don't pay me and give me my views.
Right.
I'll get paid elsewhere, somewhere else. Like just don't. Like, there's no reason that I have 1.5 million followers and 4,000 people saw my video.
Right.
Shut up.
Right.
At the very least, 100,000 people.
Ain't mathin' right there. Yeah.
And that's only TikTok. That's why I know it's TikTok, because Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, when you press out a video, it gets pressed out the way it should. Now, they won't all do as well. If a video sucks, it's not going to go 10 million views, whatever, but it's going to get seen by your followers to begin with.
Right.
And if they share it, it'll do better. Not TikTok. TikTok's a joke. And there's some months where it doesn't matter what you do. Like they're just not, your videos would be 2,000, 3,000. And then out of nowhere, the algorithm would just take back off. And this is from, I've talked to creators with 12 million followers. I've talked to creators with 100,000 followers. It's everybody across the board is like, yeah, there's some months where they just don't show my videos to people. And people will comment on your videos and be like, man, I haven't seen you on here in forever. What have you been doing?
Damn.
Like, I've been uploading every day, like, or every other day.
See, that part would suck. Because, like, I've thought about a thing I play a lot of golf. And, you know, from a YouTube standpoint, like golf YouTube or YouTube golf has taken off.
Oh, yeah. Really big.
Good. Bob Does Sports, which...
Rick Shields.
Yeah. So, I've you know, kind of focused on like, man, I would love to be able to go play golf. Now, granted, in the off season, I don't do anything. I'm basically retired, but from a real estate standpoint, we do that. But I kind of do what I want, and I feel like there's a market for. There's a ton of pro athletes that play a ton of golf.
Yes,
and maybe it's
like
another
all athletes,
right?
Yeah.
And so starting a channel to where it's another golf channel, but at the same time you're showcasing other athletes that are professionals in other sports that, you know, you go and talk about.
It's a big draw,
right? The game of golf and everything, because you watch these other channels and they're really not having a ton of athletes on there.
Right.
And so like that's something I've really thought about, but it's like, man, I wouldn't even know where to start, like from a sense of, all right, now listen, I could hire my cousin, one of my younger cousins, he's a computer nerd. And so he can edit videos and do all that. So I was like, all right, I can hire him to come over and be the camera guy and basically, but it's just like, damn, I don't know where to start. But that's something I would love to.
Dude, you should, because that's a good idea. Because what I've learned is this is the reason podcasts do well. People want to see athletes and people that they know just be people.
Right.
They like when you're playing golf, they just want to hear you bullshitting with that guy.
Right.
They don't want to hear you in an interview like, so AJ, tell me about, you know what I mean? Like they
100%.
want to just see you sit there, bullshit, play golf, hit a bad shot, get pissed off.
Right.
They want all the things that they do when they play golf.
Right. Yeah, I definitely, I'm going to have to, you know, get some advice from you on that because I would love to.
We got to go play golf first of all,
Yeah.
and then we'll video it. That'll be a trial run.
Yeah.
I went and played. You saw the few little content we did. We got invited to go play at that South Carolina course, 2 courses out there. Shout out to Caledonia for inviting us out there to play. Totally free trip. It was a blast. Like both the courses were top 5 in South Carolina, so they're really nice. And we videoed the whole thing. Like we did some bits, but then one of the guys videoed like a full front 9, like every bad shot, every good shot. Mm-hmm. It was a 4-man scramble. And one of my buddies was like, dude, we can't put this on YouTube. Like we suck. And I was like, dude, that's what people want to see.
Right.
They don't want to get on there and see you almost make every shot. They want to see you hit it in the woods and be like, we fucking suck. Like that's what they want to see.
I mean, hell, because you look at Bob Does Sports, like, I don't think they've gotten any better or much better since they started.
But the funniest clips of that are always, you know, a chunk or hitting a big slice. Like, that's the best because that's what we do when we go play.
100%. And I have a buddy, Zach, and Zach might be one of the worst golfers I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to comedy, like, he would be great on the camera because he's funny as hell. And then he would be great from a golfing standpoint because he is that bad. Like he's a jack dude, like a lot of muscle, but he looks so uncoordinated when he swings, like, and it's so bad. But
it's so bad that it's good.
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
for content.
So we thought, like, man, you know, my other 2 buddies was like, what if we just created a channel and, you know, golf and you know, filmed it and everything, and then I was able to bring in athletes or comedians, just other people
exactly
that like
to make
golf.
A funny video about golf.
Right.
I told my buddy the other day, I was like, hey, AJ McCarron wants us to go play some golf with him or whatever. He's like, dude, we got to get a lot better before we go play with AJ. And I was like, no, I'm funny enough to be bad.
Right.
Like I can be terrible as long as I'm bringing something. I'm bringing some comedy.
And especially like we, you know, when my buddies get together, it's hardly ever like you're playing your own. Like we'll play Wolf or something where it makes it fun for everybody.
It's
so everybody's
okay
not
that I hit that in the woods because you hit a good shot.
Right. So everybody's not having to focus on their ball.
I remember. It's so funny that like, because like a few of my buddies that'll be in like a few videos or whatever, they're not in videos all the time, but they do want to do them, so they'll come do one every now and then. And I remember one of the buddies that was on the golf trip, like halfway through it, he's sitting there, he's like, dude, people are gonna think I'm the worst golfer. And I was like, who cares? He's like, I know y'all don't care. You're on camera all the time. He's like, but they're literally gonna be like, who brought this guy? He's awful. And like, what's so crazy is like, he redeemed himself at the very end of the front nine, and then the cameras went off, and he played amazing the back nine. He played lights out the back nine.
That's so great.
He's like, y'all didn't want to video me? Like, he was trying to convince, we didn't have enough battery power. He's trying to convince us. He's like, come on, let's film the rest. Like, dude, no, it's over. So great. It's over. I was like, look, dude, nobody's probably going to see it. I mean,
That's usually how it goes, though. Like you go out and play and you're by yourself and you shoot one of your best rounds, and then when everybody else is around,
that'll be when you hit a hole in one. Right. I'll hit a hole in one by myself. Nobody, not even a gardener that'll witness it.
That's the fear I have, because I've come close a couple times, hit the pin a couple times, but I like going to golf by myself.
I do too. I love it.
My thing to get away is I'll hop on my tractor. I like bush hogging, and I can be on my tractor, have the music on and everything, and bush hog for 6 hours. That's kind of like my getaway, or going to play golf.
You got one of those tractors with air conditioning, don't you?
100%. Listen,
this dude pulled up in a McCarron today.
Funny story is, so when I was young, I used to have to help cut grass with my dad. He was a fireman, and his fireman buddies had a landscaping business. And so during the summer, Dad's like, hey, you're not staying at the house. Like, if you don't have workouts that day for football or baseball, whatever sport you're in, basketball, you're coming to cut grass. And I kept telling him, I said, listen, the grass is like, I can't breathe after I cut grass. And he's like, oh, you're fine. Listen, you ain't getting out of it. And so I remember one day I was on the riding lawnmower, and we cut probably 16 yards in one day. I mean, it just seemed like a ton for me. And the next day I woke up, my face is just swollen. I'm blowing my nose. Black stuff's coming out of it. And so my mom's like, we're going to get you, an allergy test for you. Yeah. And it came back, and the results came back, and I was allergic to 31 different grasses. Jesus. And I was like, I didn't even know there was 31 different grasses, but I eventually got out of cutting grass. So from a cutting grass standpoint, as long as I'm in an enclosed deal,
so you got a prescription for air conditioning tractors.
Yeah, so I have to, because it's funny, I did for the first time. I cut our football field in the back of our property and surrounding area of the house, and because the boys wanted to go out and with it being close to football, start practicing. And so I'm like, all right, I'll hop on the zero turn and cut it. And I didn't have a mask on or anything. And the next day, she's like, Catherine's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I can't breathe. Like, I'm struggling. And I went through the whole thing. Yeah, I went through the whole same process.
That's usually like a redheaded ginger kid's problem. What are you doing with that issue?
I don't know. Because my mom's, you would think having some Native American in me, like I would be all right, but no.
You would thrive in the grass.
Yeah. I guess the Irish genes took over a little too much.
I think everybody down here has got Native American. Like, my great grandma was like 100% full blooded, like Native American. Like,
it seems like everybody does, for sure.
Like, and there's I never got to meet her, but like my great grandpa, they got an old black and white picture of him, and his wife looked like Pocahontas, like 100%. Like if you're like, hey, take AI and make Pocahontas a real person, it would be her.
Yeah, it's definitely, everybody seems like they have a little bit of something.
But dude, golf by yourself, that's dude. So I remember back in the day when I was playing all the time, like people would invite me to play, and I'd be like, nah, yeah, I'm not going. And I'd go play by myself. Like, it's just I don't know.
I do the same thing. And part of it for me,
Like, I still want to go play with my boys sometimes, you know what I'm saying? But,
right.
like, sometimes you just want to play by yourself. It's therapeutic.
100%. And I tell you, it's so funny, but I have the biggest fear. Like, I will be sweating, almost trembles of, like, just shaking. I'm so nervous. Like, if I golf in front of people that I don't golf with,
Yeah.
like, I've been asked to play in all kind of celebrity, pro-am deals. The Lake Tahoe one, Pebble Beach, like all kind of things.
Pebble Beach would be cool.
So we recently went and played in a little tournament. I finally got over my fears. I took my buddy out there.
You would think you like playing in front of people. I guess because it's not your sport,
right?
Like,
I don't care if it's only 2 new people. Like if they're just standing there
like
watching
when
me
a group's like, "Hey, play through," you're like, "Fuck, man."
Yeah, I get so nervous. Like I know I'm like the only thing I'm thinking is, please God, just make contact.
Yeah, come on, don't
Just make
whiff
contact.
it.
And it's like, all right, you're a good golfer. Like, why? I don't know why I think that way, but I have this huge fear of just totally just shanking or missing it, and then like having to just look back at everybody. I'm like,
And they're being like, AJ McCarron sucks. Like, he's awful. And like, you know what's crazy is people will take a snippet, like everybody does it. They'll take a snippet of something they saw in their life. And then it's just like when you hear like, dude, Brad Pitt's an asshole. And you're
Right.
like, why? Like, I saw him one time at this magazine shop and he didn't even look at me. Like, dude, his girlfriend might have just slapped him.
100%.
And he was down there buying her a magazine.
100%.
But it's the same thing, like if AJ shanks this ball, they're like, dude, let me tell you, AJ McCarron sucks at golf, okay? And like they tell everybody they know. He's terrible.
I know. And it's such a fear of mine. But I finally got over it. I took my buddy. We got invited to play in this little pro-am deal. And like Austin Riley.
Oh, yeah. Who just got hurt. God, dude. The Braves this year.
Yeah.
He just broke his hand like 2 days ago.
Damn. Because he just had a child.
Yep.
Did they have a baby boy?
Yep.
I think
it's his second one.
Second one?
Yeah.
Okay. But he was there. You had like John Smoltz and other people. I think
Awesome.
Glavin was there.
I would freak out.
Yeah.
Like, I got to go on the field and meet all the Braves, and I was like, this is the coolest shit. Like, I've been a Braves fan my whole life.
So funny story about meeting Braves. So I had family in Deer Park, Houston, and we were down there around Easter, I think, visiting my dad's side of the family, and we were walking in the Galleria, and this was back when the Astrodome was up, and they used to play there, and we're walking in the Galleria, and all of a sudden, Dad's like, "Holy shit! There's Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, and Tom Glavine."
The big three.
Yeah, and they were just walking in the mall and got a picture with them and everything.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so when we were at Pebble, and we ended up being me and Greg Maddux were in the pro shop at Pebble on the last day of the tournament, and I finally got to talk to him and. I said, listen, I don't know if you ain't gonna remember this because you meet a million people, but and I told him the story, and he was like, "Damn!" And the first thing he said, "Was I nice to you?" And I was like, "I guess so."
Yeah, because the rest of your life, your dad could have been like, Greg Maddux is an asshole. Just for meeting him for 2 seconds.
100%. But
that's why I try to be nice to people that come up and say, like, talk to me or whatever. Because they're going to leave, and the rest of their life, they're either going to think you were nice or the biggest asshole in the world.
And no matter if you're not, the thing I've learned throughout the years, because I've been dealing with it, and people that aren't used to it asking me or coming up and like, man, I heard you were an asshole. Like, listen, everybody is
Was
a
I
normal
an asshole
person.
right then? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
It's like everybody's going through something. The only time I never refuse anything for kids.
Sure.
From a grown-up standpoint, the only time I don't like being bothered or
You're about to say the same thing as me. I know it.
is when I'm eating.
Yeah.
If I'm eating, if I'm down now, like if I'm waiting in the restaurant, I'm fine.
Sure.
But I will tell them. I say, listen, are you leaving? If you're leaving and on your way out, like I'll stand up, take a picture with you, or sign something, whatever you need. But if you're just there and you haven't even gotten your food yet, like just let me eat, and then as soon as I eat, like I'll walk over to you. That's the only time I will say something. It bothers
me. It doesn't even, if I was eating alone, it wouldn't bother me. It bothers me when I'm eating with my son. I'm just like,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, if it was a fellow kid, I was like, you're a 50-year-old man.
Right.
Wouldn't you, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not, it's nothing against those people or whatever. I get it. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
I try to.
I've never acted that way anyway. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
100%.
anytime I see somebody out, I'm never like, I better run over there and get his autograph. I mean, I don't mind people coming up to me, but it's just like if you saw me eating with my son, he's 5. It's not
Right.
like I can leave him alone to go take a picture with
Right.
him. It's just like,
And I've gotten to the point where, I try to do it, especially if the boy's around, like just right there, because
exactly.
they think it's cool.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I remember my oldest, he asks a million questions. It's by the time I pick him up at school and we get home, which is probably a 10-minute ride, he's done asked 2,000 questions. And he is never quiet. But he loves, I remember at a young age, he would be like, Dad, these people like getting your autograph. And so and then he, eventually learned. But I've always, from a kid standpoint, because I remember, like I said, growing up poor, not being able to afford anything. Somebody gave my dad tickets to the Pelicans and 76ers game back in the day when they were the Hornets.
yeah.
And the reason Dad got them, and I think it was for my birthday, was because Allen Iverson was my favorite player.
Mine too. Loved him. I mean, after Michael Jordan.
Well, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mike.
I
And
had
then,
every color Allen Iverson jersey.
yeah, Allen Iverson, and then I would put Kobe up there for me as well. But we snuck into a guy my dad knew somehow had to do with security or something. He was like, hey, all the opposing players go out of this door into this parking garage. There's going to be nobody there if you want to stand there and try to catch the players on the way out. And so I remember going into that parking garage, and it's literally just me, my dad, and my brother. And I had a Sharpie and a 76ers hat or something, maybe Allen Iverson's jersey, I can't remember. But he finally walks out, and he's the last one coming out. And I went straight up to him and I said, hey, Mr. Iverson, would you sign this? And he literally was like, no, I ain't signing anything, and just kept walking. And I just remember it crushing me as a little kid, being like, damn, like it wasn't like there was a million people, or there literally was nobody. There was 2 security guards, and then it was us 3.
Allen Iverson kind of, as you get to be an adult, he kind of had that reputation throughout his career anyway.
Right.
But God, was he good.
Yeah, he was good.
But dude, I don't know. Like, I don't mind taking pictures or whatever else. It's just like something about sitting there eating with your kid. I don't know. And I'm still nice enough to get up and do it, but it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, I just can't wrap my mind around thinking it was okay.
Right. Yeah. I just, that's the only time. Like, I just don't like being bothered while I'm eating, especially if the food's already in front of me and like you see me chowing down, because then I feel like, all right, shit, do I got to get up and check and make sure nothing's in my teeth? Because as soon as that picture gets put out and I got shit all in my teeth or everything,
because they're putting it straight on Instagram,
right?
For sure.
Because I just think of everything. So I try to treat everybody well and not be an asshole to anybody.
There's no reason for it. Like, but I tell people all the time, like, I've never had a bad interaction with a fan so far. Like,
really?
They've all been fine. I've had some people that really, really freaked out where I was like, okay,
right.
I'm not the big deal. I'm not. You're freaking out way too much for me. I'm not Elvis. But then I've had people. I don't know where I was going with this. I have no idea where I was going. I had a story to tell.
So it's funny you say that. So I've had a bad experience. Well, I've had multiple throughout the thing, but one that's like vivid for me is I was in college. This was right after we played the game of the century against LSU. This is literally like played on Saturday. This was like Monday or Tuesday. I was had been talking to a girl, and I was like, hey, do you want to go to eat on Tuesday night? She's like, yeah. I was like, let's go to Wenzel's because it's right across in Northport.
Wenzel's for years.
Really?
Yeah.
And so we went to the that sits right on the on the river right there, and I pull up. We get out of the car, and there's a family. There's a dad, mom, a daughter, or maybe 2 girls, and then a son. and the son looks like he's about 16, 17 years old. And he is just death staring me all the way, like, till I walk into the thing. They're coming out. We're getting out of the car. We're walking. And he has not, like, and it's not like a nice deal, like, hey, how are you? Or like, oh, man, I notice him. He's literally looking at me like he wants to kill me. I'm like, damn. And I finally, like, look away. We go in, we eat, we come out. And as soon as I push the door open to go out, I looked on my windshield and I can see this huge piece of paper.
Jesus.
That's under the wiper. And it's just sitting on there. And the girl's like, what is that on the thing? I'm like, I have no clue. It looks like a piece of paper. So we get there. I take it off. I get in the truck and I'm reading it. And it is literally, and it had to be from this kid. There's nobody else it could have came from. I'm just 100% believe that. But it is a death letter to no end, where he's like, you lost that game for us. You should go kill yourself. You should hang yourself. And I was like, yep, this is playing at Alabama for you. Because I remember growing up, like, I was never an Alabama fan. I couldn't stand Alabama growing up. Like, I was a huge Miami Hurricanes fan. Like, loved everything about the U. But my dad and all of his friends were Alabama fans. So I just remember, like, watching a game on Saturday and hear everybody in the house or wherever we were, like, just dog cussing whoever was playing. Sean Alexander is one of the greatest of all time, or Andrew Zhao or Tyler Watts, like Brody, like. I just remember them just going off on them, and I'm like, dude, I do not want to go play there. Like, if I have a chance to play college, like, these people are psycho,
dude. And, you know what's crazy about the South is, like, if you listen to people from the South, like, whether they're serious or not, they want to kill somebody for almost the mildest things. Like, they'll see somebody say something on TV and they're like, somebody ought to put a bullet in him. I'm like, we're going to kill him? They say it all the time. Like, after watching a football game, they're like, somebody, I hope that some bitch gets, you're like, good God, guys. I know what I was going to say earlier. What I tell people about, like, if they have one of those stories where, like, this guy was an asshole to me or whatever.
Right.
I'm like, okay, imagine the worst day of your life, whatever it is, whatever's the worst thing that happened to you. Now, imagine that just happens to be the day that somebody comes up to you like, hey, sir, can I, you know what I mean?
100%.
Like, I'm not saying that's what happened, but it very well could have.
Right. And I think that's hard for the average fan, and especially.
It is, because to them, that's their moment. But to you, that's something that happens every day, all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Now, I remember we went and saw, I was a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin fan when I was a kid. Like, oh my God. Like, I don't think I owned a shirt. I still got Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I was about to say, you got it on.
I don't think I owned a shirt that didn't have. I don't watch WWE anymore, but I don't think I owned a shirt that wasn't Stone Cold Steve Austin. And we went and saw WWF when they come to Mobile.
Yeah,
the place is packed. And, like, we get all the way to the main event, and no Stone Cold there. They never came out.
Was that the one that had Sting?
See, that was WCW. I think.
Okay.
Which they eventually merged.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I just remember going when younger.
Oh, I went to that one too.
Yeah. I remember Sting was like the main attraction that time.
My mom took me to that one, and I remember being there and being like, I don't like WCW, Mom. Like, okay, you brought me here for nothing. Sting's like the only person I knew.
Right.
But we go to see the WWF and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it gets all the way to the main event. He's not there. I don't know what it was. He could have been injured. But as a kid, you don't know.
Right.
You just think, like, I'm going to see Stone Cold.
Right.
Where the fuck's he at? And I remember they told everybody goodbye. Everybody starts pouring out of the Civic Center. And, dude, you talk about some broken-hearted kids. My brother and me are probably like 8 and 6. Like, my mom's sitting there. She's probably mad in her head. She spent all this money that he's not there. And who knows? Like I said, he could have had an injury, or he could have just been like, ugh, screw this little town. Like, whatever it is. But everybody's just chanting his name, and there's people like leaving, and everybody's mad. And, dude, this goes on for like 15 minutes, and my mom's just like, guys, let's go. I mean, he's not here. And we're out in the hall at the Civic Center to leave, and the glass breaks.
Oh,
dude, we almost got trampled to death. Like, I remember my mom putting my brother on her shoulders and running back into the Civic Center. And then we take turns getting on her shoulders because there's no getting back to your seat.
Right.
It's just chaos.
Right.
All he does is come in, like throw his hands up on all the corners, and then Triple H runs in to catch him, and he gives him a stunner. This place is exploding.
Yeah.
And looking back at it, I was like, he didn't have to do that. Like, he probably was hurt, or maybe his knee was bothering him, whatever it was.
Right.
And he was just like, these people came. Like, it's just little stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
That's awesome.
It is. That's shit like that's cool.
So it's funny. What was his?
Before you go any further, he liked some of my reels, and that's like the highlight of my career.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's
awesome.
My buddy's like, Stone Cold Steve Austin knows what your living room looks like now, and I was like, that's so cool, man.
So his, I guess not to be a negative side of things, but it is what it is. What was his ex-wife that he got into the
altercation? He's had a few of them, but I think
the one that
her real name, I don't know what it was, but it was
Deborah?
the Deborah.
Yeah. So she ended up being one of my professors at Alabama.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that she was a teacher.
Yeah.
For what? It doesn't matter. That's cool as hell.
I can't even remember, but
that's so cool.
Yeah, she ended up being
Stone Cold's another one of those people where you watch the biography, and like I try to tell people now that are talking about. I had an argument with a guy the other day online. Was like, he wasn't blah 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 blah. He's like, I watched his old tapes. He wasn't that good. I was like, he might not have been. I was like, but
this is entertaining.
He had a chokehold on the world back then. I was like, you can't understand how popular this guy was.
Right.
He was on everything. Leno. All I was like, dude, I know WWE's doing well. They got Logan Paul and everybody else, but they have nothing compared to like how
during
popular that guy was.
Right. Yeah, I mean, especially you think of all of them they had during that time: Undertaker, The Rock,
Shawn
Kane.
Michaels, Kane.
Yeah,
yes.
like
the Attitude Era. They were on top of the world back then.
Yeah, there's no telling how much money.
I know they're doing well now. I went to SummerSlam. I got sent to SummerSlam. Even though I don't watch it anymore, it was still like entertaining. You know? It was a cool thing to go to, but there's just nothing compared to like it was pandemonium when I was a kid.
Right.
Like, you couldn't walk past stores without like WWF T-shirts everywhere.
Right. Action figures, like they had everything.
Like, and that's what I try to tell him. He was only like, probably like 17, 18-year-old kid. I was like, look, guy, I know that you just can't understand it. If you weren't there, you can't understand.
Right.
I'll never understand what the world was like when Elvis was there.
Right.
I'm sure it was insane.
Right.
I don't know.
I used to hear, speaking of Elvis, like how he used to play in Mobile all the time. Like my grandmother used to always talk about Elvis was back in the day was down here playing all the time in Mobile, and I was like, it just doesn't interest me. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like I'm not alive for that.
Yeah,
I can't understand. I can't wrap my mind around Elvis walking in a room and a woman fainting.
Right.
What? There's nobody that I know that could happen to right now.
Yeah.
Like if Angelina Jolie walked in here, I would never think about fainting. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's I guess especially how my mind works is like I would think of all the things that I don't like about her. Like that's how I go first. Is like, I really don't like her views on this or something like that. It's probably not the best thing to do.
My wife will do that with stuff. She'll be like, it'll be a singer or something. She's like, I can't listen to him no more. And I'm like, why? She's like, I just heard what he said the other day. I was like, don't listen to that. Just listen to the guy's music. What does that have to do with anything?
That's what. But
I was like, quit looking into people if you want to like them.
Right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can get anybody and be like, I don't like this about them, whatever it is.
100%.
But it does make it easier to humanize people. Like, I don't know. It's probably way easier with you. Like you're so used to it by now. But like, that's the thing is like, those are just people. Mm-hmm. When, you're an NFL player. You were a huge deal at Alabama. Whenever but when you walked up, you're just AJ. You're another person.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? I've never been one of those freak out type.
I'm the same way, and throughout my career, still to this day, like you'll run into people like, I'm your biggest fan, blah, blah, blah. Like my biggest thing, and that's why I moved back to Mobile, and we try to stay, especially do anything I can from a community standpoint, just to, and we go out to eat all the time. Like family. Now I have a small group, but we're always together.
Sure.
But that's my biggest thing is like, I try to be out in the public and, seen by everybody, just so it's not just like a crazy deal. Because
you're not like a...
Right, because when I first came back to Mobile, like drafted by Cincinnati and built a house or bought a house in Winfield, like we would have people just come up, like when we first moved into the neighborhood, at all times of the night, day, whatever, just knock on the door. I can't
imagine. That's insane.
And so it kind of scared me at the same time. It's like, man, how do I... Either I got to move to where I have my own land, or just out there more as much as people can see me.
Yeah.
From a sense of like, especially in the neighborhood where you don't have your neighbors or people that live on the other side of the neighborhood just coming up, just knocking on the door. And so, granted, I ended up buying a bunch of land and have a gate around it, but
dude, I mean, you got to.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's but it's part of it. But no, I try to get out in the public as much as possible, just so try to eliminate the freak out factor.
Yeah. All right, dude. This has been a blast. We got to play golf soon.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I want to. I tell you, have you ever played at what's the Farms place? It's up in what is it called? Purcell or...
Oh, yeah. I've never played there. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I definitely got to go there. But we should plan a golf trip, but we can definitely go play the Preserve or somewhere.
Exactly.
In Kiva, the owners are there, good friends of mine, and that's an awesome place to play, but we definitely got to go play.
I'm down with that.
We'll have to film it.
Yeah,
just put it on your...
I'm down with that too. Dude, or we'll start you one. It don't matter.
Yeah.
Like, I got some buddies that want to play, so that'd be a good time.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
All right, man. Thanks for coming.
Of course. I appreciate
it.
you having me, brother.
Y'all check out AJ. I know y'all know who he is. He's on Instagram for sure.
Yeah, Instagram, really. I mean, Twitter, but hell, I don't ever...
Dude, I don't either.
Catherine gets pissed at me for never posting. Like
my agent's like, man, you got to start using Twitter. I was like, do I though?
Yeah,
like, do I?
My agency kind of took over Twitter until recently. Now,
perfect.
But yeah, I really Instagram. I don't get on TikTok or anything.
Yeah, go check him out. All right, guys, appreciate it. Bye.
See you.